Join us as we unravel our deep-rooted relationship with money, from earliest memories to eureka moments and building wealth. Birth to Net Worth, with me, Tristan Trenberth.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Birth to Net Worth. Today I have somebody that I physically met at the airport for the first time a couple of months ago. Entrepreneur, been in this kind of world of creating amazing magic for the last 4 or 5 years. And really, I asked her how to describe herself. So we have Bobby Oliver, who is a business consultant and real estate investor. And she's just got such a wonderful aura about her, the smile, the tenacity, the joy that she brings to conversation and relationships. Let's experience her. Bobby, thank you for joining us on Birth to Net Worth.
Hello, Tristan. Thank you so much for having me. That was the most beautiful intro I think anyone's ever given me.
I don't know what to say. Thank you. It's just me feeling and sharing how I feel from, what you put out to the world.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so nice of you. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and your background.
Sure. Well, do you have any specific questions right off the bat that you want answered?
So you've been in business consulting and real estate for the last 5 years, 2019, similar time period to me. What got you into it? What inspired you? And what's that journey been to this point?
Sure. So back in 2019, 21 years old, I mean, it was honestly an accident how I got into real estate. It was something I always wanted to do and just didn't think I was qualified enough, as I'm sure a lot of us probably felt when we got started. And then you get into it and you realize just how easy it is. And so I got into it and it was such a funny story. And I don't think about it and don't appreciate it enough. But I was actually running a company with my now ex-husband. We had a car detailing company. We were always very busy with it. It was good. We had employees. One of the best experiences I've ever had, just because I learned how to run a business. And so learning how to run and operate a successful business was great, but we were constantly at the office. And we were living in a very small apartment, and I loved the landlords, but they had this old, 1940s building, and it was, very historic. It was in a small town in eastern Idaho, and it was great, except for we had I don't even remember what they were. I want to say we had a roach infestation in this apartment, and it just got so bad, but it was really all we could afford at the time because we were putting all of our money back into the business. And I remember we weren't even taking paychecks for ourselves. We were constantly, making sure our employees were paid first, making sure we had good equipment, making sure everything was covered, and we got kind of what was left over. And we did that for a couple years. And I remember when we moved into this little apartment, it was $500 a month. And so we moved into it because it was cheap, didn't have a dishwasher. We were in it for a month. And like I said, we had this roach infestation and I had just had enough. And I remember I was I'm just going to drive around and look for sale signs in the neighborhood. Now, I was not very educated on the market at the time, just because I had never really looked into real estate at all. And so I was driving around. And I just remember it was so vivid. I can remember it clear as day. I remember I was driving down this street and I see this little brick house that has trash all over the front yard. It looks abandoned. I think there was windows were kind of open. The front door might have even been open now that I think about it. There were no cars. It was, mail stuffed, the typical signs of an abandoned house.
Yeah.
And so I was I wonder what's going on with this, and tried to find out. I didn't know anything about data. I didn't know anything about skip tracing. I didn't know how to find the owner, but I'm just going to figure it out. So I called all these potential owners, plugged in the address, look for the owner, and get directed to a rental company. They said, yeah, we had renters in there for about 10 years. They just moved out. They connect me with the owner. And the owner's I live down in Texas. I'm going through a divorce right now. It would actually be great if you could just take the house off my hands. We don't even have to get realtors involved. I'll carry it for the first 6 months. and then you can put it in under a mortgage. And 21-year-old me is standing there like, this is legal, we can do this. And he gave it to us for very much under market value, and it needed a lot of work, but that was the first house that I found, and later found out that I had really just been driving for dollars. Found this house, got it cleaned up, moved into it, and then 2 years later, or no, it was probably, yeah, almost 2 years later, ended up selling it and moving, and I realistically made my first 100K off of that, and was just in shock over how real estate was so simple and so easy. And so when that happened, I thought, I have this money. I'm not going to go blow it, but I do want to move, and I do want to get more educated. I want to learn as much as I can about real estate. And so I paid a ridiculous amount of money to get into a house flipping course / mastermind. And it ended up, it wasn't a waste. The group wasn't necessarily good, but it taught me what kind of people to surround myself with, and also what to focus on depending on where the market's at. And so I just learned so much by going through that experience with getting the house in the first place, and then thinking I wanted to flip houses, flipping that first one, and then just getting around those people who were teaching me about flips and wholesaling, and then commercial real estate, which is what I don't partially do it now. I've kind of put a pause on it, but I'm in masterminds that focus on commercial real estate. And it's just brought so many more opportunities the more that I participate. So I would say that was my first intro into real estate, a complete accident, but definitely a happy accident. And here we are.
That's brilliant. I've been laughing because I think there's so many people that I know that have had that expensive entry where the network that they built subsequent to understanding what they needed to do and what not to do from that expensive experience was such a point. No shysters. I think, careful what I say, but it was an interesting experience, and I built some great relationships through that and from that, but it doesn't seem to have served me too well, the knowledge we got. But the person who I am is because of that, or partly because of that, and that's what I'm grateful for, and that's what I take away from those things. So
Exactly.
that was kind of a live-in flip almost. Is that right?
Yes, I was living there and flipping it at the same time, but it was so great. I wouldn't take it back for the world. I mean, when I tell you, when we moved in, these people, they had moved out and they had left some trash there, but they had taken all the pictures off of the walls. You could see the outlines of the picture frames because they were heavy smokers.
Yeah.
And you could see the outline of where the nicotine had stuck to the walls. Luckily, though, we were a car detailing company.
Yeah.
So a lot of the tools that we used, we would just bring them home, clean the walls, stay up until 2 a.m. blasting music, getting everything clean, and it was amazing. I mean, such a fun experience. I'm sure looking back, if anyone were to look back on my life, they'd be like, what were you thinking when you did that? But I would not trade it for the world. It was an incredible time.
Fantastic. So let's dive back to the genesis of Bobby Oliver and money and how you remember it. So
yes, let's talk about my favorite topic. I love money.
Fantastic. So what was your first memory or experience around money? What was it that shaped your perspective on money?
Okay, first off, I love that you ask this question because you get such a wide variety of answers. And I think you and I talked about this in the airport when we met.
You did.
When you ask that question, you really can get a good understanding of someone's psychology, not just of money, but of abundance and scarcity. So it was such a brilliant question, first off. I will tell you, and it's funny, my first experience that I ever remember with money was, I think I was like 3 years old, and I remember waking up super early in the morning. Like, I'll give you a very specific example. I remember waking up at like 6 a.m. in the morning to my adopted parents being on the phone with the radio show hosts. Remember on the radio when they used to like give away trips, or they used to give away $500 cash? They used to like give little things away if you got an answer right to this or that, right? It was kind of like playing the lottery. You had to call in. If you were the 17th caller or the 95th caller, all these things. And I remember there was one morning I woke up to like all this pandemonium. We had my older sister and her friend getting ready for school. We had my adopted dad and mom there. Like the house was awake and they're on the phone and they're like trying to figure out what these answers are and they're calling into the radio. And that's really all I remember. And the reason why I think that is like stands out in my mind so much is because we never had an abundant mindset. We thought that money was very scarce and very limited. And so it was always, oh, if I can just win this, if I can get a discount on something, if I can get a free this or that. It was almost treating money as if you had to be lucky to have abundance. And that followed through the rest of my childhood. And I just always remember being so confused about that, because when we moved a little bit. We moved a lot actually in my childhood, but I think we moved from Oregon to Idaho when I was 5 or 6, and I didn't really understand the reason at the time, but that was, I think, 2003, 2004. And so we moved because my adopted dad had to get a new job. And then we were always like making ends meet, but it was always like thrift store shopping, or it was, if you don't have a belt, use some baling twine and tie it around your waist to keep your pants up, or, oh, your brother's going to grow out of these pants or these overalls or these boots, and so then you can have them. And it was always not just hand-me-downs, but almost like it would be wasteful to not reuse things multiple times, even if they weren't in good shape. And I just remember thinking, well, why not just work harder and create more abundance so that you can have whatever you want? And I don't know where that mentality came from, but I just know that it was different from my adopted parents. And so when we moved to like a couple acres, and they actually, like, they're my adopted parents. I don't call them mom and dad. We don't really have a relationship anymore, and it's okay. Like, we've closed that book. It's fine. But I usually, if I refer to David and Jennifer, like, that's my adopted parents. But I remember, we moved to a couple acres, and David and Jennifer were like, if you want to do 4-H, which is like the local county fair, we'll help pay for the supplies. You can take an animal to the fair, and then you can sell a pig, or, you can sell different animals. We'll help you do that. You have to pay for the supplies as soon as you sell the animal. And so I started doing that when I was 8 years old. And then I also had like a chicken coop, and I bought like 30 or 40 chickens and did a little egg business. That was my first like technical business. And it's so fun to look back on, because I would, go out early in the morning. I'd get all the eggs, clean them up, and then I would call people. I would call people from our church or from our community. It was a small farming town. Call them up. Hey, I'm selling eggs for $2 a dozen. They're fresh farm eggs. I use this kind of feed. They taste amazing. And people would buy them. And when I tell you I made a fuck ton of money off of selling chicken eggs,
I love that.
and I loved it because people were so happy. And I finally got people calling me saying, hey, I know it's only been a few days, but can I get another dozen? Like, I understood from a very early age the supply and demand. And so I did that for a couple years. And then I also did the 4-H. And so I would buy pigs and I would raise them, make sure they were healthy, good weight. Was very responsible with them, which looking back is weird because I feel like I was probably more responsible then than I am now. I was such a people pleaser. Maybe that's what it is. But I would go and I would, sell these pigs at the fair and make $700-800 and then pay off the expenses. But we had to keep all of our records, and so it taught me the importance of like running a business just on the most basic concepts, right? But that was really my first understanding of, well, if my parents refuse, parents meaning my adopted parents, if my adopted parents refuse to make more for themselves, it doesn't mean I can't make more for myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to go make more money. And that's what I did.
Fabulous. That's incredible. I love the depth of that, because you learned so many things, like effectively bookkeeping at a very basic level, supply and demand, sales, and your beaming, voice and your smile behind the phone, calling people, selling the eggs to them, and then them calling you. I just paint such a great picture.
It
down.
was great. We don't appreciate it in the moment. I think that's probably the case for most of us. But even though like my childhood was not by any means this gold platter, everything handed to me, it was quite the opposite. But I would not change it for the world, because it certainly made me who I am today, and it makes me so excited to actually offer something that's worthwhile. And I think having that childhood taught me that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your pigs and your chickens, that took you to what kind of age?
That took me, I would say, until I was 14 or 15. So I did it for several years. I want to say I did 4-H for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
And, showed horses on the side, but that didn't make any money, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I got to do that. And then shortly after, we moved to North Dakota, which was just kind of a shell shock. But it was interesting because as soon as I moved, I remember I wasn't old enough to get a job. I was 15, and we lived out on a ranch 30, 40 minutes from the closest town. And I was like, how am I supposed to make money? What am I supposed to do? Like, I wasn't allowed to have a phone. I wasn't allowed to use the internet unless my parents were right next to me. They wouldn't let me spend money without letting them know. I had like a $50 limit of what I was allowed to spend. Even though it was my money and my thousands of dollars in the bank, didn't matter. But I was like, you know what? I know that I'm good at photography. I bet I could do that. And so I remember I spent like close to $1,000 on a nice camera and started taking pictures. North Dakota's beautiful. I started selling those pictures for the first year. And then once we moved into town, I was like, I bet I could figure out how to take portraits of people. And I got really good at it. And I started doing family pictures and senior pictures all throughout high school. And then I got a full-time job because I was able to do that with my online public school. And I chose to do online public school because I knew I could do a job at the same time. Like, looking back, I was so much less interested in the social norms, and I was more interested in how can I make more money and be the most productive.
Yeah.
And so I did that up until college, and it was great. I mean, it wasn't just about making money. It was understanding that if you are willing to put your mind towards something, if you're willing to be productive, disciplined, and if you're willing to be patient with yourself, you can learn pretty much any skill that you need to.
Yeah.
You just have to go after it, and you have to be focused on that only. And then once you get it figured out, you can move on to the next thing. But it was really interesting. Just like the ultimate goal was making money, but how I made money, I had to acquire different skills.
I hear definite purpose in your voice, referring back to Napoleon Hill. And it makes me think, were you so focused on what you were choosing in your definiteness of purpose, or were you somewhat aware of the perspectives of outside of your family, school, friends, and otherwise that may have been in a similar mindset to your family or your adopted parents? Was that around you that was seeing a lot of scarcity? Were you seeing abundance around you at any of those points? And how did that kind of affect you? Or did that drive you even more to be focused on your purpose? Because when we grow up, if we're in scarcity, we either see abundance as awful because these rich people have money and they're the landlords, they're coming to collect the rent from my parents. It's bad. That's stories I've had over some of these episodes. What did you notice about other people? Did you notice abundance around you? Did you notice scarcity and some sort of imbalance or balance of those things?
I think from a very early age, I remember being, 7 or 8 years old. There was this one family in our town, and I absolutely love this family. I ended up working for them for a little bit, but they were hardcore entrepreneurs. They had multiple businesses, and they employed people in the community, and they were like, they had several commercial buildings, and so they were technically landlords. And some people hated them, including they didn't hate them. That's a very strong word. But there were a lot of people in the community who just thought they were snobs, who thought that they were, too good to hang out, or that these people didn't want to hang out with them because they were too good for them. They had created this negative narrative of these people with money. And a town of 2,000 people, word gets around very easily. But I remember being a kid and thinking, well, these people with money, they've always been so nice to me. They go to our church. They always say hello. Their kids are my age. But guess what? They didn't act like they had money. They drove a normal car. They wore normal clothes. They didn't care about what other people thought about them. They had a normal house. Granted, they built onto it and put an indoor swimming pool in, but they never bragged about it. And back then, we didn't have social media, but even now, they're not the type of people who would talk about the millions of dollars they've generated or that they've made for other people. They weren't like that. And I just remember thinking, wow, I really like these people. They're always so happy. They always give so much to the community. They always give so much to people. Money is a cool thing. I really like money. And on the complete flip side of that, people who were complaining, people who said, oh, well, money is the root of all evil and money is terrible and there's limited money in the world, which is not at all true. Money is limitless. But there were these people that just had this scarcity-based mindset. And guess what? They were the most unhappy. And so it's a very simple correlation that people with money who are actually good people tend to do good things with it. People with money who are bad tend to do bad things with it, right? Like money just amplifies the type of person that we are. And so I think seeing that family from a young age, like I said, 6 or 7, and seeing how normal they were, but seeing that because they were so innovative, they were able to do more. And I learned, oh, money is just a way that we have more of everything. We can choose what we do with it. I'm going to choose to do good things with it. And so having I think that example, that family will never know how much of a foundation they laid for me understanding how much I appreciate and value money. But also, that was young childhood me. And then like my adopted grandpa, he had rental properties and he was a very scarcity based mindset person. He would go and do all the renovations himself. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was kind of his full-time job. He was more of the landlord that was just scraping for money all the time and then putting it in an account and not doing anything with it. And then I kind of watched that and thought, well, I like the idea of owning a bunch of properties and like housing a bunch of people and making a good house for people. That's really cool. But couldn't I do something more with that? Couldn't I invest in that? And I think past that, I started listening to podcasts. I started reading books. I started studying people who not just had money, but people who were doing something for the world that was actually worthwhile. And as soon as I got to college and university, it became very clear on the type of people who wanted to make a difference in what they were actually doing. And those people loved money. And I was like, okay, this just solidifies the idea that money is good. Money is what you want it to be. Money is really just a transfer of what you're already producing. So if you're a good person, money is just going to create more of a good thing. And I think over time, it's just built up. The more I watch people, the more I study people, the more I learn that money is incredible. And it was definitely an external source because I did not have that abundance mindset in my own household when I was growing up, but that's okay. I learned what I didn't want to be like for sure. And if anything, that's probably more important than learning what I did need or did want.
That's an amazing, such an inspiring answer. I mean, you went through so many things there. I mean, money's just like an ingredient in life between spiritual, emotional, financial, wealth-wise. It's just an ingredient, and depends what the other ingredients are that mix with money, depends what the cake tastes like at the end of the day.
I love that analogy. Yes. Well, and something else that I just thought about was, when I was 10, because this would be 2008. When I was 10, we lost our house in the financial crisis. And David and Jennifer, my adopted parents, were never really quite clear on our financial situation. We had a daycare in our own home. And then David worked a full-time job, and they just were never really clear on our money situation. And I remember when we lost our house, I felt so powerless. And I just remember thinking, I could be mad at the situation. I could be mad at the bank, or I didn't know who to be mad at. David and Jennifer were mad. I don't know. Again, to this day, I don't know why. But I just remember thinking, wow, I never will have that happen to me. I will never be so powerless where someone can take something that provides safety for me, the house. And it was just a really powerful and unfortunate thing to happen. I mean, it was embarrassing having to move in with my grandparents and living there for a year until we could buy something else. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. There's no reason for this. Yes, unfortunate things happen. Yes, we can learn how to make better decisions, but what's the point in going through something difficult if you don't learn from it? And it's so much easier, I think, to learn from something than it is to just nitpick at something and be negative about it. I just never got a good feeling from playing the blame game. And not to say that they intentionally did that. They just didn't know any better. My parents did not know any better.
And what we resist persists. And what we're resisting and
Absolutely.
complaining about, what we speak is what we live into. And by
1000%.
and us speaking and productive and flourishing in ways which are helpful to our future, that's what we speak into. That's what I mentioned before we started, is who do you want to be known as today? Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here yet. Who is it you are today? And what do you need, moving forward? So
Yep.
that's a great introduction to your early 20s, and you're so young that there's not much of a story left as far as age-wise, but so much has happened in your last 5 years. Tell me what you've noticed since, that expensive course, your first flip, and I'm guessing that's probably 4 of the last 5 years. Is what have you been creating in the last 4 or 5 years, Bobby? I mean, we had a little discussion, but tell me much more, and tell me about the people you've come across, both abundant mindset, scarcest mindset, not obviously specifically industry, but the contrast between how you lean into a relationship and how you determine somebody's not in alignment with you, your passion, your purpose, and how that, inspires you to create more and bigger.
I love that. It's been interesting because back in 2019, I bought that first house. I think it was 2021. I did that flipping course, and I paid $15,000. Like for anyone that's been frustrated. Did you guys see the door move? That's my dog. Sorry.
Don't worry, my puppy's here somewhere. He's probably going to come over because he heard me say, I love that tail.
Yeah, you can see the tail. But I paid anyone who's ever felt stupid for investing poorly. The thing is like you're going to learn from that experience, and those experiences cost money, and they cost time, and they cost effort and energy, right? And so if you're looking at it like, oh man, that's so much money. Yes, it is, but learn how to make the most of it. So if that's any advice I can give as to anyone who has invested and they feel like they invested poorly, take every possible lesson you can from that situation and then apply it to the next situation. So when I was doing that flipping course, the market had changed drastically as soon as I had really gotten into it. And even with that, the course just wasn't what it said it was. And that's totally okay. I'm not mad about it. I don't really think about it. Granted, I would never recommend it. So that's kind of their loss. But once I thought, I'll do this flipping, I started going to like hard money lending events, and I started getting to know some people. And it's really interesting to me how connections work, because we think, oh, if I just put my head down and work and never talk to anybody and just YouTube everything or Google everything, I'll figure it out. And the thing is like real estate is not a single player sport. It is a team sport. You have to have so many people, whether that's directly under you working in your company, whether that's partnerships, whether that's lenders, whether that's people doing your rehabs, whether that's your CPA and your tax advisors. Like there's so many people that go into single deals and into successful companies. And I think I especially have learned that in the last year. I was referred over to Tim Bratz's group with Legacy Family, and it's been incredible. I have gained so much from that, and that's just been since I left my 9-to-5 a year ago. It's funny because I feel like I used to listen a lot to what my peers would say about my career choice. And they said, you went to school for economics. Why aren't you utilizing that more? And shouldn't you get a 9 to 5 because it's safer? And I think in my early 20s, as I was dabbling with, selling my car detailing business, or at least the portion of it that I had, moving, having a 9 to 5 for part of the time because I needed to, and then just kind of getting comfortable with the 9 to 5 and thinking, yeah, this is nice. I can just stay in this forever. And then only 6 months into a 9 to 5, feeling so disappointed with myself and so dissatisfied because I knew that there was something so much better, that I was so much more capable of bigger things. I had done bigger things before. Why was I letting myself down? And so I left my 9 to 5. I was an accountant slash in the finance division for a company, and I left that almost a year ago. And that's when I really started focusing on the business consulting. And then I really buckled down on my real estate investing. And it's just crazy how much can change in a year. Like, as I'm thinking about it, it's like, wow, I would not have guessed. If you would have told me a year ago that this is where I would be, I wouldn't have believed you, because a lot can change in a year. A lot can change in 6 months. A lot can change in 90 days. It just depends on how quickly you're willing to move and what type of people you surround yourself with. Like you mentioned, Tristan, you said, what type of people have I surrounded myself with, and what type of people have I sort of let go? And that's been tough. That's been one of the toughest parts of becoming a better person, is letting the old people go. Because, when you have friends who are in college, or even sometimes family members who don't support you as a person, you can ignore them. You can be polite to them. You can kind of put them in the background. Some people are so persistent with the old version of you, and they want to keep that old version of you around. And that doesn't work out when you're trying to become a better version. And so over the last year, I've let a lot of people go. I've let a lot of friendships go because we weren't co-elevating.
Do you do the Trump thing and call them and tell them they're fired? Or no, I'm kidding. So I just felt such a drop of energy when you were talking about towards the end of that W-2 period, and then the joy that came back when you were talking about the more recent 6 months. And it's really true. The opportunities and the people that we meet and the relationships we have. And it's exactly why we need to let the friends go. And it doesn't mean that we need to be rude with anybody or fire anybody, as I joked about. But the reason that people want us to be the people we were is because it gives them justification and reason to remain who they are. And if they're not willing to evolve and grow, it means that they're going to hold us back, as you and I already know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You couldn't have said that better, because that's exactly what it is. But guess what? I was not born to fucking justify someone's bad behavior. That's on them.
Absolutely.
And I think I finally became comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Did it take you time to get comfortable with letting people go and being okay with it?
Absolutely. I mean, I've got friends from the past I been in touch with recently, through the loss that I had recently, and I don't feel the reciprocity. Yeah, I moved out of the country, but I've been the one that always stays in touch. But those are some of the things, that the gravity that really, people that stick with me, and they're always there. We don't always talk, and they're always there in the way that we need. We want to support each other and grow with each other through the relationship. So it's sometimes hard to distinguish what's comfort zone versus what's empowering, because sometimes comfort feels like growth, in the sense that there's something good there that was good in the past that was empowering, but have we got the choice to let go of something that no longer empowers us and holds us back? Versus, and they say the fear and the excitement, adrenaline is very similar. How do you distinguish between fear and excitement? And can we just look at something that we've taken a calculated risk on and choose it to be excitement over fear? And we can recontextualize it into, hey, this is going to be fun. I'm going to learn a lesson. It may be a hard lesson. It may be a great lesson. It may be a fortunate lesson and, good fortune. There's some great gifts in what I'm going to do with the people that I do it with. We're going to learn about each other. let's just take this on and be happy and be excited about the magic that's going to happen. It might be an anticlimax for the moment, but let's not get attached to the result that we expect and allow something better to transpire from what we choose to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you have to have that open mind of what the result might be with any relationship, because I mean, it's not up to us, right? And that's what's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. I wouldn't say it's a controversy, but whenever you say, well, it was my intention to do this, and people say intention doesn't matter. It does. Intention matters, because guess what? If I have a good intention and I give that good intention to somebody else and then they don't have a good intention, does that mean that my efforts somehow are void? No, of course not. My good intention mattered. We can have good intentions towards a lot of things, and the result isn't always up to us. And so ideally, yes, you would have a good result, but it's not a one-sided action. Both people have to take action in that relationship for it to work out if you want to have that positive result.
Perfect. Perfectly said. So tell me about where you are now. What projects are you working on right now as far as consultancy and real estate? Do you have any flips going right now? I know you've been working with Tim. Tim's an amazing guy. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him in person yet.
What? You gotta meet him, dude. I'll hook you up. I'll make sure you guys meet.
Thank you. I could talk to him and then maybe have him on here too. So Bobby, tell me about what you're working on right now. Are you working on flips? I know you're part of Tim Bratt's program. I know you're consulting on business. Where's your focus? Where's your priority? And what are you moving into over the next 90 to 180 days?
Sure. A lot's going on. Like I said, a lot can change in 1 year. Primarily right now, so I invest in land all throughout the Pacific Northwest. That's been a big focus as of late. And I mean, we're hiring 2 to 3 people within the next 90 days just for that company. So I'm excited for that. You know, being invested in real estate has one foundation of the wealth platform, and it can pretty much run on its own in a few years. So I'm excited for that. And then additionally, and I would say more of a long-term play, is my consulting business called BWell. And it's more of a wellness consulting. And so we help companies scale by focusing on their employees' health and wellness. And we have 6 different pillars of health. So essentially, if you have an employee who isn't performing the way you think they should be, we go and we do different tests with them, and we look at their physical, mental, emotional, social, financial health. We look at all these different aspects of their life, and they get to volunteer whether or not they want the help. But we've created a platform where companies can come in, they can get very simple advice on what they should be focusing on in their personal life, and then whether or not it's serious enough to where maybe we should direct them to a specialist, or we can just direct them to a few free, easy resources. So it's really just a hub for employees to connect, to understand how they can perform better, not just at work, but also in their personal life. So that's been the focus since February, and it's really been a lot of beta testing over the last 8-9 months, working with companies at a very discounted cost to them, just to see does our platform actually work? Does everything I've created work? And it does, and it's been incredible. Just recently, we ran some new stats because we've been working with a couple companies for 90 days, and we saw one company where their net revenue jumped up 63%. And we saw another company, they jumped up, was it 140% or 150%, somewhere in there, where their net revenues increased. And it wasn't that anything in their business changed. It was that we looked at all of their personal, not issues, but personal lives, and said, how can we elevate these elements of your wellness so that you can focus better on work? And it completely shifted. So that's more of the long-term focus. And like I said, it's been a lot of testing this year, but it's been very good, and I'm very passionate about it. So a lot of things going on there as well.
I love that. Mental health is a huge passion of mine, and I'm working with a friend of mine to put together a documentary on a public speaking program that she initiated about 5 years ago. She found in 2020 that one of her speaking students had been sex trafficked at some point. But in the
Wow.
next 3 or 4 days, 2 other people came into her life that had been also victims of sex trafficking. That inspired her to put together a platform to give a voice to those that have been silenced through sex trafficking. So it resulted in many, many women being able to get together and speak with each other and create a public speaking delivery, like a TED Talk kind of thing.
I love that.
But it,
Wow, what a powerful
yeah.
wow.
So the huge unexpected benefit was because going to therapists and stuff, they have tools and they have methodologies of helping people. They don't have the true empathy of going through a similar experience. And between these women getting together on Zoom, they managed to not completely heal each other, but go through much more of the healing process together in a united way to support each other, which had a huge difference. It resulted in 7 women speaking in front of 500 people here in Scottsdale. A Spanish documentary company heard about the project and came over and documented that journey.
Wow.
She's gone through the incarcerated. This year was breast cancer survivors. And 2024, she's chosen mental health to be the topic. And we're starting focus groups next week to look at what area do we focus on? What area do we give the voice to? Because there's such a huge demand and a huge shortfall for mental health care. And I love what you're doing, that you're providing hopefully early access to resources for those that may just be struggling in a family environment, maybe struggling in a much bigger battle that anybody knows. I love that that's now on the table for companies. So
Thank
I
you.
really commend you for that.
Thank you. I'm excited. It took several years to figure it out because it was something I had tried with my first company. Just what would happen if I took care of my employees?
Yeah.
What would happen if I gave them books that they might want to read about self-development? What would happen if I introduced them to meal prepping? What would happen if I encouraged them to drink more water instead of more energy drinks? Granted, I've been drinking this the whole time, right? But like helping them understand that they could be healthy and perform so much better at work, but also increase their longevity, be happier, have a better life. And I thought we can do this simultaneously. And so since that, I started that business in 2017, 2018, and have just been gathering all this research and finally thought this needs to be a company. We have to start helping more people. We have to start doing more about it. So it's been incredible, and it's just going to continue to get bigger. It's interesting to me how heavily underrated it is. I think it's 100% of Fortune 100 companies use an internal consultant to help their employees. And then it's 80% of Fortune 500 companies that use these consultants. And so we know it's important, but there's not a single company that is considered a hub that an employee can just plug into and say, I don't know why I need help. I'm really struggling at work. I'm really unhappy. What should I do? And it's essentially an automated system where they answer a series of questions and then they're directed on what to do past that. And then every company has an internal consultant that they can talk to as a person if needed. So it's going to be the biggest company I've ever built. And trust me, I've tried to let it die. Like, you ever have an idea where you think, am I just excited about this? Is this just a short-term feeling? But it won't die. This idea I have tried to kill it. I have tried to push it to the side, and the demand for it just keeps increasing. And it's just been incredible to see how all these moving pieces have come together. And it's I think just proof that it has to continue. It has to keep growing, and it's going to be a massive company. So I'm excited to see where it goes in the next 1, 5, and 10 years.
Phenomenal. So what else are you working on? Because I know is
that not enough? Am I supposed to be working on other things too? Besides that and the land investments, that's primarily it. I try to take care of myself and I try to get some sleep occasionally. So been really focusing on myself as a person, and that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to hit the gym and to eat healthy and to meal prep and to sleep, but it's been crucial to my success, just really understanding if I take care of myself first, then I can take care of other people too. And just having fun with that and making the most of it.
Fabulous.
Plus maybe a little bit of crypto on the side, but that we don't have to talk about that.
Fair enough. Well, it's going up at the moment, I hear. So, but what do you need in your life and business right now? If somebody would have a conversation with you to say, hey, you got the health consultant, your business consultancy, your health business, you've got some crypto and your land company. How could they, if they aligned with your beautiful message, your beautiful life, how could they align with you and support you in growing your business and ultimately increasing the impact that you have on this world?
I thank you so much for asking that. That's such a good question to ask in a podcast. Um, I haven't really thought about it, in all honesty, and maybe I should. I would say,
comes to mind.
yeah, I would say primarily just getting the message out there and being more vulnerable. You know, there are so many business owners and entrepreneurs who, when I talk to them one on one, they say, well, just please don't tell anyone I'm doing this. Please don't tell anyone I have you as a consultant. And I'm like, it's completely confidential. I'll never tell anybody, but it means so much to me when people are vulnerable and say, hey, I need help and I don't know what to do. And then being willing to invest in getting that help, because it's good things are not free, right? Like things do cost money, but I just want people to start valuing themselves and actually putting a price tag on their health and on their wellness and a price tag on their businesses and knowing that they're worth investing in. So I would say that would be the primary thing that I need right now, is just if someone is looking for business consulting and they're not sure if it's worth it, reach out to me. Like I try to answer all of my DMs. I'm always available. And I'm always here to help. And if I can't help you, I will certainly send you to someone or refer you to someone who can. So that would be it on the business consulting side of things. And then land investments, you know, it runs pretty smooth. I can't really say I need anything on that end. I'm just grateful for all the people who have already supported it, and looking forward to connecting more. So yeah, just connect with me, reach out, and I love getting to know more people for sure.
So what's the name of your business consultancy that helps these companies take care of their employees? Because you told us a lot about it. What's the name?
Yeah, so the name of the company is BWell.
Phenomenal. We can have links for Bobby in the credits after this. They'll be in the bio below. What would you like to share with the audience before we wrap up, Bobby?
Oh my goodness, I still get to share. This is amazing. We do still have 12 minutes if you want to keep going.
I think that if you can fill 12 minutes, go right ahead.
Okay. I just didn't want you to feel rushed if you had other questions for me.
I'm not rushed.
But yeah, as far as if I can just leave any like lasting words of what I think people need to hear right now, is whether you think you're going to win or you think you're going to fail, you're right. And with everything going on right now, you know, the world's never been at peace. We've never really had a time where everyone's been at peace. And so I think it's really easy to get distracted on the pandemonium taking place, but it's not about to get any easier. And I think if you can just focus on the good and focus on the abundance, that's what you will find. And that's something that's been so helpful for me over the past even 3 months. Get comfortable with it being chaotic outside and learn that you can be your own peace. And don't get distracted by everyone else. Don't get distracted by the consumption and the consumerism that takes place, especially around the holidays. It's so fucking stupid how hard we try to impress other people we don't even like. But take care of yourself first, impress yourself first. Spend money on what you want to spend money on. Don't fucking worry about looking good for other people. Yeah, you should be yourself, but be your best self, as I always say. Just focus on you. Focus on what makes you happy every single day. It doesn't fucking matter if you wear a Rolex. If you want to and it makes you happy, great. If it doesn't, fuck it. Just be yourself. Learn who you are so that you can be yourself. And then go be your best self.
There's that expression, we borrow money we don't have to buy things that we don't need to impress people we don't like. And, you know, there's so much guilt around the holidays, is that, oh, well, I'm buying this gift for somebody, and then if I don't spend that much on somebody else, connect with the meaning of what that gift or what the thing means to the person more than what the value of something is. And we forget about connecting to ourselves and what the gift of our own time and our own connection is. Because sitting against, I sit down in my bedroom, against the wall, so I've got someone to support my back. An hour's meditation, which I'd never done before a month or so ago, just around the time we met, might be in the day we met. An hour's meditation, I started to hear my own inner voice more clearly than before. And I haven't really got to that state with time and in the last month. But just, if we don't give from a full cup, we're giving ourselves away. And that diminishes it, it degrades us. So until we get to the point that we fill ourselves and not feel guilty for it, we're giving from an abundance at that point instead of giving from lack. Because if we're lacking, we're not going to be able to give as brightly, as beautifully, and as abundantly as we could do if we're taking care of ourselves.
100%. You have to fill your own cup, and whatever is overfilling is what you can give. But like you said, you can't just diminish yourself to make other people happy. And it's such a, I think that mentality in of itself, like when you're trying to please other people and when you're trying to diminish yourself to make someone else feel good, that in itself is a scarcity mindset, because you're saying, well, that person couldn't get happiness from anywhere else except for me, so I should suffer so that they don't have to. And that's so not the case. You can be fully happy, and that person can get happiness from you, or guess what? They can get happiness from themselves or from other people. It's not your job to make other people happy. It's not your job to make other people feel good. It's not your job to make other people feel bad. People decide how they feel. We all get to be accountable. Thank God that we get to be in charge of our own emotions. And it's truly a blessing that we get to choose how abundant we want to be, how scarcity mindset based we want to be. We literally get to choose exactly how we feel. So it's certainly a good point on your end. Don't diminish yourself just to make someone else happy.
Absolutely.
I will say one more thing, if that's okay, because you reminded me. I don't know when this episode's going to be posted, but if anyone would be interested, for the 4th year in a row, my sister and I have actually been doing a massive charity for families in need around the holidays. So we pick families who are struggling in our local communities, and we try to give them as much as we can. So whether that's paying their bills, whether that's clothes that they might need, we get info from people who they might know. It's completely anonymous, and then we get them gifts. We wrap them up and deliver them on Christmas Eve. We got a list of 20 families this year. We cannot help them all, unfortunately, but there is a fundraiser, there is a GoFundMe, and then we also have Amazon wish lists. So I can certainly provide all the information for that, but we are raising money to have that ready, hopefully by December 20th. So again, I don't know when this will be posted, and that's okay, but people can either reach out about it if they'd like to donate to that, and that would be incredibly helpful.
Fantastic. Bobby, you're such a superstar, such a wonderful energy.
Oh, thank you. So are you.
Spending time here today.
Good attracts good is all I can say, Tristan, and I just appreciate you letting me be on here. Had a great time and a great self-reflective hour, so I appreciate that. Is there anything I can do for you?
You've just been everything I could ask for and more, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you for having me, and I guess we're good to go, right? Will we end it?
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Look out for the next edition of Birth to Net Worth with another wonderful guest. Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thank you, Tristan.
Bye-bye.
Bobby was so delightful today. I'm so grateful to have these wonderful conversations continue to come. Follow Bobby, see how you can help this holiday cause, see if we can touch the lives of 20 people through what she's doing for these families. Follow her links, see if you can bring referrals to her to support mental health, the emotional health of employees, increase the productivity of these people, not just in their business life, but in their home life, so they can be better mums, better dads, better sons, better daughters. See what you can do to help. Follow these links, and we'll see you on the next edition of Birth to Net Worth. Thank you.